How you doing, guys? Today we're going to look at chapter 60 on airbag and pretensioner circuits. Understand the reason why we came with airbags. Obviously, number one thing is safety. Safety was the utmost thing that when they first came out with them. And typically, we're looking at, late 80s, early 90s when they first came out with them. We're looking at, of course, they only had one airbag that was on the driver's side area with the inflator module incorporated with the horn circuit. And then we had two crash sensors, which are the inputs. You have your airbag inflator, your control module, your SDM module, and you also had your seatbelt sensors. Okay, those are the main integral parts of the airbag system. The seatbelt retractors, of course, those are the emergency basis. Of course, now it's required by law that we all wear seatbelts. In the event that we come into a frontal accident, we don't have seatbelts. Obviously, our body can go anywhere. I mean, it can go through the windshield. It can go, anywhere, literally. So the seatbelts are important for us to wear, not only because they're telling us to, or if you don't have them on and the cop stops you and sees you not with your seatbelt, you'll get a ticket, but it's mainly for your safety. The seatbelt also with the pretensioner also has a explosive charge in it that's in there. It's designed to help in the event that you have a severe accident with based on your input from your brake on off switch, or the boost switch as we call it. It has a tendency to put the seatbelt tight on you. So that you don't go forward any further than what you need to. Typically, keep in mind, we do have a safety feature, the key on engine off. We're going to have the airbag light come on for us. Of course, there's different acronyms for that. SIR, which stands for Supplemental Inflatable Restraint System. There's a SRS, which is a Supplemental Restraint Systems. And then you have the SAR, which is a supplemental air restraints. There's different types of manufacturers regard with that as far as the airbag system design. But typically, we're looking on page 688 there. There are some of the parts that we see there. There's on the top part is a small explosive charge that I talked about here on figure 60-4 with the pretensioner. Keep in mind that, like I said, that's we got to be careful with that. Make sure we're doing the normal testing on it that we're designed to do by the manufacturer. Don't try and use any jumper wires on it, because it can actually discharge and explode and can cause some issues. So typically we look on page 689 how we get it operated here with the crash sensors. Of course, we've got they came out with one airbag, which was, like I said, the driver's side. Then we came out with a passenger side, optional, with an on and off switch that we could turn off and engage for that. Depending on the vehicle, when they first came out with, now, we've seen anywhere between 10 and 12 different airbags now. Curtain airbags that are on the side, especially on SUVs, on vans. We have them all over the place. So, we have many crash sensors, especially from the sides of the impact and then the back as well. So we've come a long way from the airbag era when we only had one. Now we have about, like I said, I think 10 to 12 airbags now that we see out there. Typically, when we have voltage being applied to our arming sensor, which is in the front, our crash sensors, as we call them, it sends a signal real quick to our airbag inflator module, and it goes to the clock spring to a control module. Then the airbag deploys to the wire harness area, and it happens in a quarter of a second. On page 689, it kind of gives you the timeline of when what takes place between the time the accident occurs and the time it finishes, and the airbag goes back into a deployment phase or a deflating phase. But overall, it's about a quarter of a second, which is very, very quick. Happens very fast. We look at page 691 on the top, of course, the way the connectors look like on the inflator module. Keep in mind, anytime we have to service it for whatever reason, say it's not working, it doesn't self-check. The light will come on just like a check engine light comes on, just like all the other dash lights come on. It's going to do about a 3 to 5 second check of the whole system. And in the event that there's no problem with the system, then the light should turn off after about 3 seconds from the time you crank over the engine. But if the light comes back on again and stays on, that means you have a hard fault somewhere in the system, and the airbag will not deploy if you do get involved in a car accident. So that means it's important if the airbag light stays on while you're driving, that you get it serviced and checked out, because and typically the way we do that is we're going to take it in for service and use a scan tool to check out and see what the codes are. And depending on what the codes are, then we'll get our information and print it out and start diagnosing to determine why that light's coming on, because it will not deploy your airbags if it stayed on all the time. So airbag system is service in the event that you do have to work on a system once you diagnose it. Of course, we need to disconnect the negative cable, disconnect the fuse, read the specifications on it, on the vehicle you're working on, because they're all different. But typically disconnecting the negative cable and disconnecting the airbag fuse, and then waiting for a predetermined time before you can service the airbag, because it has capacitors inside of it. And if you're in the process of moving and wiggling around, of course you need to have ESD straps as well. It's a good thing to have that. Electrostatic discharge straps, they're wrist straps. They go around your wrist. It looks like a telephone cord, and it at the end of it, it's got alligator clips. And I'll show you that. There's a couple of demos that I'm going to do for you guys on that. I do have my own here, and then I'll go through a scan tool test, basically just to do an airbag test on it with my scan tool that I have here. That way you can see what to kind of do and look forward to when you're going to check out an airbag system and the various sensors that are located with that. So I'll be giving that demonstration pretty quick for you there. Looking at different types of ways that we have, of course, the occupational detection systems. Of course, that's a pretty unique system on the passenger side. Of course, there's no weight on the passenger side. The airbag light will be on. If it's in the off position, no airbag will deploy on that particular instance because there's no weight on there. Typically, we got a 10 to 37 pound kid or baby inside on the passenger side. The airbag will be disabled, so that's why they tell you do not put kids in the front seat, because there's sensors on the seat itself that will detect that weight. 38 to 99 pounds of pressure of weight on the passenger side seat. The airbag will deploy, but at a less impactful rate. Any weight 99 and above, of course, the airbag will come out full force as well. I don't know if anybody's ever been involved in a car accident, and I'll ask this question every time I taught this particular section on the intro course. If anybody's got involved in a car accident where an airbag deployed and on them, and I've had numerous students tell me that they've been involved in some accidents where the airbag did deploy on them and they incurred some personal injury as a result of that. But my take on that is I'd rather be hurt for a broken nose or something like that happening, a twitch in my neck, rather than not to live to tell about it. Okay, so just kind of keep in mind that's what we're, the reason behind this is to have be able to save lives and involved in a car accident, front car accident or a side impact accident, whichever may be the case there. And that's the type of seat sensors that we have on particular vehicles, and we have different ones on page 696 there. The gel-filled bladder sensor, okay. You've got the capacitive strip sensors and the force sensing resistor type sensors that are three different types of seat sensors that we have on particular vehicles that are out there. Okay, we talked about side curtains that come into place here. Normally they're, like I said, located in the door panel assembly or on the curtain air rail assembly, depending on type of vehicles. But they work in place with an accelerometer or lateral sensor on both ends. and that's one of the inputs that helps with the airbag deployment to our airbag control module. So this is a pretty good section here, dealing with the airbags. So what I'll be doing is I've got some demos that I will be doing for you guys regarding the airbags, some of the equipment that I have here that I'll kind of show you on what you would need to do and how to use it. And I'll go through a scan tool testing on airbags for you. Okay, you guys be out, if you go out, be safe again, you know, wear your masks, and we'll get through this. Guys, have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.